Welcome to Streaming with Two Dudes, a podcast about all things streaming. Each episode, we break down some of the best series, songs, movies, and shows. I'm one dude, Parker.
I'm the other dude, Jeff.
And dudes, this month our theme is reboots and redos and remakes. And this episode, we were talking about the 2017 Wonder Woman. But first, Jeff, what else have you been streaming?
I've actually got something for you this time.
All right, let's hear it.
Most of our listeners probably know that we took a little bit of a break, took a week off.
Yeah, that was my fault. My bad.
It was a great break. I mean, I know you probably enjoyed it. You got to travel, see some family, but I really enjoyed it as well because since I wasn't as pressed to prep for the next podcast, I actually got to sit back and actually stream some stuff and watch some stuff, and so I actually, definitely don't be upset. I enjoyed the little break. So what I ended up I actually watched a number of things, but I won't share them all because I need to spread them out since I don't have a lot of stuff to share usually on this part of the show. But I've been seeing the new, Scream trailer here in the last number of weeks, and I was like, you know what? I need to go back and watch, the last two. I couldn't remember if I had watched Scream 4.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and started that, and turns out I actually had not watched it. Somehow I missed Scream 4 somewhere along the way, and then went ahead and watched Scream 5, which I guess they also just call Scream. So yeah, I watched those two, to prep for the new Scream coming. I believe that's what opens in March. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, which is kind of a weird time.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, normally, because I would imagine most of the Screams have released in the fall, around Halloween or whatnot, but whatever.
I would think so, but I'm not 100% sure. So,
but
I don't know, but it's interesting.
I'm sure it'll still do well. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed 4 and 5. Of course, I mean, they're never going to top the original, in my opinion, which I don't really expect them to. But
right,
to be on the 4th and 5th installment, I feel like it's still going strong. And I'd forgotten that Scream 4, brought in some, additional star power. So that was pretty cool with Emma Roberts, and then the Hayden, can't pronounce her last name. I'll call her Hayden Pan.
And Pantier.
There we go. And of course, Scream 5 was my introduction to Jenna Ortega.
Yeah, because you still haven't watched Wednesday yet.
I have. I'll talk about that.
You have? Okay.
Oh, I've been watching some stuff, man. You give me a week off, man. I'm gonna start watching some stuff. But so yeah, highly impressed with her. I think I even had told you, maybe prematurely, but I was just so taken back by her performance in Scream 5. I was like, this might be my favorite performance out of all the Scream movies. I thought she was that good. So for that to be the first time me watching her, I was really blown away. She is outstanding.
Yeah. She's a lot of fun.
Impressed. And so yeah, I'm anxious to see Scream 6 and see what that. I know it moves to New York, and Jenna Ortega is obviously still in it, and the girl that plays her sister. So a few other characters from the previous ones come back.
Yeah. I'm excited to see that too, man. I mean, I know that both of us are like huge fans of the Scream franchise, and anybody that's, listened to like all of our episodes, I feel like we've talked about it several times about how much of fans that we are. And yeah, so
yeah,
I'm sure we'll talk about it several more times.
It's like Amanda LaRusso and then Scream.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty much the two things we talk about, that, and then I think now that, other than that, maybe Taco Bell, and then now probably Matilda at this point.
Yeah. We're all over the place on this show, boy.
Yeah. We become fanboys of things pretty easily. But yeah, this week I actually going to talk about this show. It's on Netflix called The Pez Outlaw, and it's about this guy who, I think it was during the 80s and early 90s, when the Pez thing started getting kind of, like when the collecting stuff started getting really popular, and this guy just randomly becomes a part of this kind of like a what's it called? Kind of like a black market Pez dispenser like market, and he like goes overseas and like orchestrates this whole thing, and it's pretty crazy. But it's one of those, documentaries that I always love that Netflix always seems to put out. It's just like some weird story that somebody's got to tell. But this one's not like a series. This one's only just like a short little hour and a half movie, but it was a lot of fun. And I always love those kind of things, like those little silly documentaries that are just somebody that's either like breaking some kind of small law or just like some kind of weird thing that's happened like in pop culture or et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, that one was pretty fun. And I think it just came out like last week or something like that. So yeah, it was fun. So yeah, it's called The Pez Outlaw on Netflix.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And the dude is, I mean, it's full of like people around the Pez scene. So I mean, like those just if you can imagine what like kind of characters would be around like Pez collecting in general, it's pretty great. So just the people involved in it are interesting enough besides the storyline. So super fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Jeff, we watched Wonder Woman, and even though neither one of us had seen this before, I feel like you could probably find some pretty good tidbits covering Wonder Woman. So, what kind of stuff can you tell me about Wonder Woman?
All right. Well, obviously, a lot of what I share and a lot of what will come out, I'm sure, of our discussion of the movie and our podcast is not run short on this at all, but it's girl power.
Right.
This movie obviously features Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman.
Is it Gadot or Godot? I've heard it both, and I'm not really sure. I didn't look it up, but
I mean, Godot definitely sounds more sophisticated.
I'm not sure.
But
I was gonna say Godot, but you can go Gadot and I can go Godot, and we can just call the whole thing off.
There you go. But it also had a female director, Patty Jenkins, and like a lot of films we've discussed, this movie was a long time in the making. Development first began like back in 1996. Warner Brothers announced the film in 2010. Patty Jenkins signed on to direct in 2015, and the film finally released in 2017. Oh. So, as you can imagine, with a movie like Wonder Woman and looking for a strong female lead, the list of names attached to this project was immense. And some weird ones in the mix on two different extremes. So you got Sandra Bullock, makes sense, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Lucy Lawless, Mariah Carey. Wow, I'm not sure where that
these
came
were all
from.
like probably in the 90s, right? Like earlier on. It had to be with the names that are being said.
Especially with Mariah Carey, I can't imagine that had to be an old consideration, and obviously back when the movie wasn't being taken very seriously. Because anyway, but I mean, also Kate Beckinsale, Mishka Barton, Rachel Bilson, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Angelina. I'm all over the place with these names.
I don't know how you don't know her. She's
well, I'm very familiar.
Yeah,
I'm very familiar with her. Just obviously don't know how to say her name right. Angelina Jolie, Jessica Biel, Eva Green.
Eva.
Okay. Christina Hendricks, Kristen Stewart. I'm so glad they didn't go that route.
Same.
And I like her, just not for
that. Was such a weird Wonder Woman.
Not for that role, but couple other people I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce their name. I'm not that familiar with them anyway. But anyway, so obviously they end up casting Gal Gadot, whichever your preference is. And at the time of this film, it was actually the first female dominant superhero film in 12 years since Elektra in 2005.
Which everybody remembers.
That Jennifer Gardner.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, love Jennifer Garner, but I wasn't a big fan of that film. But
I don't even think I saw it.
Yeah, I don't even remember anything about it. But
yeah, if you wouldn't have mentioned it right now, I probably would have never thought about it ever again.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously this was the first very successful female dominant superhero film in a very long time, but
Yeah.
it was also the first female directed live action film to have $100 million plus budget. So
Nice.
they really gave Patty some support. And even with her, she was originally tied to the film back in 2005, but she had an unexpected pregnancy. She had to step down. She had claimed that this is the film she'd always wanted to do her whole life, and she felt very fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to come back to it. But up to this point, she only directed one low budget drama film in her career 14 years before, with
Oh, wow.
no experience handling a big budget action movie. So man, were they putting a lot of faith in her, especially with all the hype built up for this movie. But it did really well, grossed over 802 million worldwide. Highest grossing film by a solo female director until it was overtaken by the ever infamous film called Hi Mom.
Yeah.
Which was foreign film overseas, so I'd never heard of it, but
Yeah, I've never heard of that either.
it did really well in China or wherever. But so we talked about Gal Gadot quite a bit, and you'll probably remember too. There are a lot, and you know how comic book fans get, man. They get bent out of shape on who you cast and who you pick, and she was not a popular choice. And when he originally, well, of course, he first cast her in the role of Wonder Woman for the 2016 film Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
And she was actually previously offered a different role as a villain in Man of Steel, but she ended up declining it because she was pregnant at the time. So that actually allowed her to be cast as Wonder Woman in the follow-up film.
Oh, wow.
So had she had taken that role, then obviously she would not have been available to take, the role of Wonder Woman. So that worked out well for her. Now, this next part, to me, it really bothered me when I read this. So Godot signed a 3-picture deal and was paid $300,000 for the first 3 films, which was Batman versus Superman, Wonder Woman, which we're discussing now, and then the Justice League movie. Wow. I know she was unproven at the time, but how is that your base pay for a big budget movie like that? I was shocked by that. Now, I know a lot of times they've got a lot of stuff built in on the backside based on how well the movie does.
Yeah, but the way they do those books, like 9 times out of 10, they wind up pretending like it doesn't make money so that they don't wind up paying out those people. Unless you have like a really good agent that like puts it in like certain words in.
I hope she changed her agent after those 3 films, because that is, I mean, she didn't make $1 million.
Right.
As far as what she signed on for. Like I said, hopefully she got a lot of extra. Now, for the sequel, Wonder Woman 1984, she made $10 million. And for Red Notice, ironically, she made $20 million. Huh. So she's making up for it. But I was shocked when I saw, because we hear a lot about,
maybe it's like, like how athletes sign like their rookie contracts, and then once they do like really well their first like couple of years.
And like I said, I can see them being cautious, because obviously they already had it was going to be in a very expensive film, and you've got an unproven actress. So I mean, obviously you're not going to pay her 10-20 million right off the bat, but 300,000, I'm like, you would have thought at least 5 million, 3 million or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, obviously she's proven herself. She's, she did well, and she's starting to make her money now. But, that's, you hear a lot about pay equality with men and women. And to me, that didn't help the matter, because to me, that looks really bad.
Yeah.
You could easily argue that if that were a man and he was in an unproven situation, he'd have got more than 300K for, the first 3 films. But anyway.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah. So she is an Israeli actress, singer, martial artist, and model. She was, originally born in Israel. Her parents were a teacher, as well as her dad was an engineer. She served in the IDF for 2 years and also won the Miss Israeli or Israel title in 2004.
Oh, cool.
Her film debut was actually in the fourth film of the Fast and Furious franchise as Giselle. Um, but obviously, her first breakthrough would have been when she played Wonder Woman in Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
And of course, this Wonder Woman where she was the lead. And interesting thing, she actually got this part shortly after she decided to give up on acting.
Of
She
course.
had a lot of unsuccessful attempts at landing roles, and of course, with her, still residing in Israel, 15-hour plane rides back and forth between the U.S. and Israel, and she's pretty much just said, I'm done, and I'm pursuing other stuff. But she was invited for a screen test, and she was not even told what the film was about. So she agreed as a kind of a final fling before she quit. And the screen test consisted largely of reading relatively anonymous dialogue, and she left afterwards to return to Israel, but she got a call back, and then she was told that she was shortlisted to play Wonder Woman.
Oh, nice.
And the rest is history. So that worked out rather well for her. And
I wonder if she's still living in Israel.
that's a good question, because obviously she's been much busier
Yeah.
and doing a lot of stuff. But I would imagine she probably still has a home there.
Yeah.
But she's probably spending a lot of time in the U.S. You would think by now.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
So, culture these days can't really agree on how to handle girl power. And the director took a lot of flack for casting such a beautiful woman for the role of Wonder Woman. If anybody's not familiar with Gal Gadot, however you want to say it, she is she's just a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've seen her in a movie, but of course, with all the hype that Wonder Woman received, I'd read up a lot on her. I've seen a lot of interviews with her, and she is just so down to earth. I mean, I've been a huge fan of hers without even watching her in a movie yet. Prior to watching Wonder Woman, just seeing her interviews, and she's just a lot different than, I guess, your typical, like, which I know at the time she was an A-list star, but she's just different, and I've really liked that about her. But yeah, the director Patty Jenkins took a lot of flack for, I guess it was pure sexist, having such a beautiful woman serving, in that kind of role. And she kind of shot back and said, should make no difference what she looks like. Being strong is not a privilege of a hard, tough, and troubled woman. So she has the right to be beautiful, attractive, and powerful at the same time. And I thought that was an excellent point, because we forget it works both ways, because extremely beautiful or physically attractive women tend to get stuck in a box as well.
Right.
And that's not fair either. But well, if you're that pretty, you're just a model, or you're not intelligent, or this and that. So why not cast them in something like this? Say, you know what, you can be, extremely attractive, you can be strong, independent, intelligent, you could be the full package, and that's perfectly fine. So I really like the way she kind of shot back at that.
Right. Did you happen to catch who played her mom?
I don't say it. I mean, no. I mean, I looked her up, but
it was Robin Wright. Do you recognize her?
Robin Wright. I know the name.
She played Jenny, Forrest Gump.
No way. How did I not?
And before that, she was Princess Buttercup in Princess Bride.
I'll be dog. Well, that's pretty cool. Jenna.
Yeah, Jenna.
And believe it or not, there was other actors and stuff, as Parker just mentioned in this film. The other big main person was Chris Pine. Um, been in a ton of stuff. I've liked a lot of the stuff he's in. He's been in the Star Trek movies, Jack Ryan, Unstoppable. Probably everybody's favorite Chris Pine movie, Princess Diaries 2. So love the chemistry they had. And a couple of things I'll kind of mention as you're doing your recap.
Yeah.
It kind of falls more in line with just a little, not a lot, just a couple of interesting little tidbits. But
all right.
However, I do got one thing for you.
Okay.
Before you jump in, I would like to kind of hear, because this is the first superhero movie that we've covered in our, gosh, what is this, like 4 or 5 months now?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So what are your first memories of your introduction to like the world of like superhero movies? And like, what do you remember, and like which movies, were at the time? Obviously, we're got a few years between us, so I feel like we got a different experience with how we entered this world.
Well, I guess if you're gonna talk like just comic book in general, probably my first one would definitely be the Ninja Turtles, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. A lot of people don't realize that they're, comic book origins, but they actually they were probably my first. And then of course Batman, because I was a child when the whole Batman Returns, the Tim Burton Batmans were out. And then when the Joel Schumacher, I was old enough when those came out that Batman Forever, oh man, that was like one of my favorite movies for years. Because I was just a big Jim Carrey fan, and Tommy Lee Jones was in there as Two-Face, so loved it. So that was probably like my introduction. I was a kid in the 90s, so I didn't really get into like any, I guess, of the classic. I guess probably after that would be like the Spider-Man movies, the Sam Raimi ones, and then the X-Men movies. I was a big fan of those, and then of course once like the Marvel universe started taking off, that was, then and there. How now we're here. But as far as like the DC universe, not a huge fan of like the Supermans. Um, I've caught a few of them here and there. In fact, I'm just kind of like, I think we kind of talked about it a little bit. Like I don't know, it's just been so oversaturated the past like 5 years that I really don't know if I've watched very many of like the ones that have been out recently. But I try to keep up with them, but it's so so much. It's just overwhelming at sometimes. But yeah, I I would say that I'm like a fan of them, but not like a huge fan. Like this was the first time I actually watched, this Wonder Woman, which actually, yeah, we'll get into later. But yeah, what about you, man? What's like your history? Were you a big fan of like superheroes and comic books, or comic book like related, characters whenever you were growing up?
So I wasn't like real big into comic books. I mean, I remember having one or two here and there. It's not a big reader. Still not to this day. But
Oh, I did forget. I was a big fan of the Spawn. I did love Spawn and the Spawn movie.
okay.
Yeah, can't forget Spawn. But go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. So I guess for me, growing up in the 80s, and especially being a young kid, like in the early 80s, I mean, it was Superman. And which, obviously a big thing is, if I recall, I don't remember there being any other superhero movies during the 80s outside of Superman. Batman didn't really kick off, I think until the 90s.
Maybe late. I think late '80s, but yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much for all intents and purposes. Although Howard the Duck was in the '80s, so if you want to count Howard the
Okay.
Duck.
I was a fan of Howard the Duck. But yeah, I mean, it was just, and Superman was one of those things where, I mean, that's what everybody loved at that time.
Yeah.
and the movie was kind of ahead of its time, in some ways. And like I said, it's just times were a lot different back then. I mean, nowadays, we have dozens of superhero movies every single year, and back then that just wasn't the case. The technology wasn't there yet to really pull it off very well. But man, the original Superman, and then of course, I just thoroughly love Superman 2, which most people, they love the first one better, but I just love the villains in Superman 2. So yeah, that was kind of my first memories was the first two Superman movies. They probably should have stopped there because it got pretty bad after the second one. But but yeah, I mean that's what all the kids were emulating. And Christopher Reeves was just excellent as obviously a Superman. Uh why is his name escaping me? Who
Christopher
played?
Reeves. Was it
Yeah,
Christopher Reeves?
yeah, he played Superman. Why did the guys escape me who played Lex Luthor? Because he was
Ooh.
excellent too.
I
Um,
I should know this. Is it Gene
Gene
Hackman?
Wa- Gene Hackman, yes.
Yeah. Gene
Um,
Wilder. That would
yeah, why
be
did I say
such
Gene
a
Wilder?
that would be great.
Yeah, that would be more of a, a parody, of course. But yeah, that was definitely me. Definitely early in my childhood. Then obviously when I got a little bit older, as you mentioned, like the Batman started to come along. Really enjoyed those. I loved Michael Keaton. The first, the earlier Batmans,
Mhm.
and but yeah, I've never. I'm probably like you. I've never been like a superhero junkie, like a lot of guys are nowadays, and especially here in the last 5-10 years, where it's just been too many to keep up with. So I just gave up, and just try to watch here, one here and there, kind of like we're doing now with Wonder Woman. But yeah, that's kind of. I kind of figure our history would be a little bit different just with the age difference there.
No, actually, like I feel like, for the most part, we're pretty similar. Except I'm just not a huge Superman fan. I don't know. There's just something about him that, like, I don't know, it's just like he's not interesting to me. I don't know, he's just too perfect, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
but
I always like a little bit of a like ones that have, like more of a human side to them, I guess.
yeah, well, see, that's the thing. At my age then, Superman was your only choice. I
Yeah,
mean, if all you were doing was watching the movies, so it ain't like nowadays where kids
that's true.
have tons to choose from. I mean, Superman was the only film that was being done for any kind of superhero, as far as like one of the major ones.
Yeah.
Again, not to disrespect Howard the Duck, but uh, but yeah, so yeah, everybody had Superman underoos back in those days. So,
Pretty much Superman or Star Wars.
oh yeah, yeah, of course, Star Wars.
All right. Well, I think it's about time to hop into the recap for everybody that's new. This is where I pretty much recap the movie from memory, and at the end, our boy Jeff here grades me like I'm pretty much giving an oral recap, like I was in class, and he's gonna grade me from A to F on how well I cover everything. But, sometimes I get a break because we're also going off of what Jeff remembers. Um, so, um, let's start out here. We got a little bit of open narration from Miss Gal Gadot playing Wonder Woman, aka Diane. She is getting a delivery from Wayne Enterprises. This is taking place in current day, and she is gets a picture, and she, it's a pretty old picture. We see her with, I think 4 different men, and she kind of starts to go back in time. We see her as a little girl. She is on an island with of these Amazonian women, with her mom, who is the queen, and her aunt, who is basically the general of their army. And little Diane wants to become a warrior. She wants to train, but her mom's against it. Basically, she starts training behind her mom's back, and
So
her
a
mom.
quick and interesting little tidbit. Um, Gal Gadot and the girl that plays young Diana,
uh
Emily Carey, they share the same birthday,
Ooh, that's cool.
April April 30th. So if anybody wants to send presents to Gal Gadot or Emily, send them to Parker Thompson at. No.
um, so she starts training behind her mom's back. Her mom finds out, and uh, actually, before she starts training behind her mom's back, her mom explains to her why she war is bad and they should avoid it. She tells the story of how Ares pretty much pulls a DeFeo and kills all of his god family, and because he doesn't like humans and wants to have them eliminate themselves in a war. And before Zeus dies, he pretty much creates um another, I guess, weapon to defeat Ares should Ares ever attack again. And then we go back to Diane training behind her mom's back. She finds out and, pretty much tells the aunt, like, you better train her better than any other person you've ever trained before. She better be better than you, et cetera, et cetera. And, Diane does so. She becomes this pretty badass warrior. And then one day she's out, looking over the ocean. Basically, oh yeah, they're on this island that Zeus built for them to like protect them and hide them from the rest of the earth. And one
So,
day,
so I got a little question for you.
yeah,
Any guesses on where that was filmed at?
my guess would be probably like Hawaii.
Southern Italy.
Oh, okay, that's beautiful.
Oh yeah, I'd love to go after seeing that movie.
Right, that was gorgeous. So she's out looking over the ocean and she sees a plane basically just appear out of the sky and crash into the ocean. So she swims out to save this soldier. We find out his name is Steve. He's being chased by some German soldiers. They find the island and start to attack it. The Amazon women come and start to fight back, and they kill all of the German soldiers. We lose some Amazonian women, uh, including the general, who is Diane's aunt, and um, they basically vow to, they find out from uh, Steve, who is a spy for the British intelligence, that he had stolen a notebook from the German, I think it was a German general, and his scientist, who they called Dr. Poison. And he has stolen the notebook and uh, crashed on his way to return it. And um, so they decide to go back to I think, was it London, I think, and to turn the notebook over. Diane goes with him. They sail out and make it there. They turn over the notebook, and Diane can read it because she's pretty much knows all these languages. And they find out that um, they're going to be doing this, and I forget exactly where it is. So they decide to go and fight on, I think it's basically like where the front line is. And before they do so, they go and they round up this little ragtag team of, really good, I guess, soldiers. And I guess that's what you call them, are like missionaries. And that Steve knows. And we get to the front lines where we see Diane, kick some ass. She's basically taking all the fire, and they go in and take over the German, I guess, what you call that, like where they had been held over. And Then okay. All right. After that, where are we at? They get back there and they take that over and oh my gosh, I'm having a moment. Oh, and then they find out that then she decides that Ares is the general, so she is going to go and kill him. They get there and she does kill him and she finds out that that he is not, and there's still war going on, and then that's when she finds out that um this British guy, I forgot Sir, I forgot his name, but she basically finds out that he's Ares and they start to fight. She she finds out that she's actually a god and that she's actually the weapon that they call the god killer because only a god can kill another god. Um so she finally defeats him. Oh, before she defeats him, uh Steve, who Diane and Diane has fallen in love with by this point, he takes a plane and sacrifices himself to get rid of this bomb that has been set on a timer, and that gives her the strength to kill Ares and basically save the day. The end.
Ta-da!
That one was that one was tough, but this movie was 2 hours and 20 minutes, so there was a lot to cover. But yeah, what's my grade, man? Give it to me. Give it to me straight, Doc.
All right. Well, you're at a little bit of an advantage because it's been over a week since I've watched this one. So you could have missed a lot, and I probably wouldn't have picked up on it very well. But
I definitely missed some stuff.
I'll give you a B plus.
Okay, I'll
I would
take it.
I would have considered an A, but there was one particular scene I was hoping you would mention. Um, Not that I really expected you to, because it wasn't a huge part of the plot. I just thought it was really funny. Uh, but when Diana and what's Chris Pine's character?
Steve.
Steve. Okay. When they first leave her island, on boat, and they're kind of laying there having that discussion about the pleasures of the flesh.
Yeah.
Uh, that whole sequence was completely improvised. It was not scripted.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so that was I thought that was probably one of my favorite scenes as far as comedy anyway.
That's
But
good.
and actually one thing that's interesting is uh, no one addresses Diana as Wonder Woman throughout the entire film.
Right.
Even though it's called Wonder Woman, but she's never addressed as that. That might come in the sequel. So
Yeah, I actually really want to see that. So Jeff, what before we I guess we should give in our rankings. What should we rank this out of? Is it your turn, I think? Or is it
actually, I think I did the last one.
okay. We'll give this out of 5 lassos of truth. How
Ooh.
many how many lassos of truth and what did you think about it and why?
All right, I'm gonna go straight into my score and then kind of go out from there. I'm
Okay.
gonna give this one. Uh, you said it was called Lassos of Truth.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it 4 lassos of truth out of 5.
Okay.
I thought this movie was excellent. Um, I went into it with pretty high expectations just because I just remember how much hype there was when this movie came out. I remember it being received really well, and like I mentioned earlier, I was already a huge fan of Gal Gadot, even though I mean I vaguely remember her a little bit in Fast and Furious, but essentially she was new to me. But just because there's so much hype around this movie, and of course she's gotten really popular here in the last 5 years, I've just read a lot of stuff about her. I've seen a lot of interviews, and I've just become a really big fan of hers. And I just thought she did such an amazing job, because especially with the pressure I'm sure that was on her to handle a film like this, and it being, I guess, such a torch for girl power, a female director, big budget, they were taking a huge chance with her, although they could have paid her a lot more, like we mentioned earlier, but um and just all the different intricacies that she brought to the character, as far as the compassion, uh, the strength, I mean, just I thought she just brought so much to it, just but such a kindness to it, uh, that I thought was a good mixture.
Yeah.
Um, I love the story behind it. I love the whole World War II type era, but then also kind of tracing back to the roots of Zeus and the Greek gods and stuff. Uh, I thought the chemistry between her and Chris Pine was excellent. For those that want a little bit of a love story in there, it's got that. I was a little disappointed in which luckily they didn't spend a lot of time with it, but I almost thought it kind of cheapened woman a little bit, but she kind of fell, I guess, for Steve a little bit, and they kind of had the kissing scene. Um, Now, of course, you can't tell if they were trying to allude that maybe they spent the night together,
Yeah.
or but I was a little disappointed in that, just because I'm like, really? I mean, she's never seen a man before, and you're just going to make
Yeah.
her you kind of fall for the guy right off the bat. But anyway, otherwise, I just yeah, the cinematography, just visually, it was very stunning. The acting, I don't really have a lot of complaints about this movie. So it was everything I was hoping it was going to be, maybe even a little bit more. Would love to see the sequel, which I think is just Wonder Woman 1984. Heck, just because of her, I kind of want to go back and see some of the other stuff, like Batman versus Superman, which I guess is where she was initially kind of introduced. But
Yeah.
yeah, great movie. And like I said, I don't do a lot of superhero movies, but this is definitely one of the ones that I really enjoyed, and was glad that we chose to go with this one as one of the suggestions from our listeners. So, what about you? I'm anxious to hear your thoughts and your rating.
Okay, so I will hop into my rating right off of the bat as well. I'm gonna give this 3.5. Lassos of Truth. Uh, I'm gonna echo a lot of the things that you said. I loved the story. It was great. Some of it was predictable, but I feel like most superhero movies are at this point. Like, I've never really been too shocked at anything that's ever happened in any of them, which is probably one of the reasons I don't really, care for them too much, because the storylines are usually you know, pretty common. Like, there's nothing. It pretty much follows the same formula. Um, but you know, I did really enjoy it, and I really enjoyed, her acting, like you said, and all of the acting in this, honestly, was pretty great. Um, I laughed at moments. I got emotional. So this was a good watch. I really enjoyed it. The only reason I take off a little bit more was I felt like it was a little dark for me, and I know it takes place like in. Actually, I'm going to correct you. You said World War II. It actually takes place in World War One, which
Mhm.
it gets a little confusing, because basically the same
I,
parties are kind of involved in both of them. But
I know why I got that confused. I think the original story was World War II,
yeah,
but the director she thought the time period of World War One would fit better. So she
yeah,
decided to go with the first one instead of the second one. So that's why I got those confused there. But thank you.
yeah. I mean, yeah, like I said, it. I mean, I don't think it matters too much, but they do call it like the war to end all world, the war to end all wars. So that one, yeah. Plus that one was like the one where like mustard gas was used. I don't know. Anyways, I'm kind of a nerd about some of that stuff, but um, yeah. I didn't like the like you said, I really didn't like the fact that she just kind of like fell for the first guy that literally the first guy she saw, you know. But you know, I felt like it could have been a little bit more like unspoken, you know, and it had the same effect. So um I did I did enjoy it though. So 3.5 is what I'm gonna go with. Yeah. What yeah, yeah. I did enjoy it. I loved it. And yeah, yeah, I can't wait to see 1984. I probably will watch that pretty soon actually. Hopefully.
Yeah,
So
I got really close to watching it last night, but I went with something else. But yeah, would really like to watch that one. So what about a dude or dud? You got a dude or dud?
I do have a dude. I'm actually going to give it to I can't remember the um the character's name, but it was one of the members that the sniper guy, can't think of his name, but that actor, he I don't know, he had a really interesting storyline for such a smaller character, and the actor did a really good job, and I just really enjoyed it. So I'm gonna give it to him. What about
All
you?
right. Well, I'm going to continue my trend of just going with like obvious stuff. um, because we only get one of these. I was like, I don't want to leave like the really good stuff out. But my dude of the week is Gadot. I, I alluded to it earlier how I imagine she had an immense pressure on her,
Yeah.
for this role. I mean, this is her first time tackling anything like this, and there was so much buildup and hype and a lot of controversy over her being casted. And so I just love what she brought to this character. She knocked it out of the park. I mean, she's what has helped, kind of launch Wonder Woman back. Obviously, that has a trickle down effect of helping the other DC stuff. So, and she's a big reason for that. So she should be really, really proud. So gotta give her due to the week for this one. I thought did an amazing job.
Awesome, man. Yeah, she really did. And actually, you know, I actually do remember her from Fast and the Furious 4. So it was I mean, it was kind of interesting. Like I said, I knew that she was in this, so it wasn't really like a shock, I guess. But I thought it was really cool, you know, remembering her from Fast and the Furious 4, and then all of a sudden she just becomes this famous actress like overnight.
Yeah, it happened quick.
Yeah, it really did. And yeah, good for her. She deserves it because she is great. Um, and I'm really surprised that, you know, she didn't get bigger before this. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So, Jeff, before we get into what we're watching next week, do you want to give me whatever weird thing you're going to ask me this week?
All right. Yeah. So I want to know, Parker, what are some things you shouldn't say to a cop who pulls you over for speeding?
Well, I actually have a good story behind this one because there is something that I have said to a police officer that I thought I was being funny and he thought I was being a smartass. So
I'm
I definitely got a
s-
ticket.
I'm so glad you're saying this because I've got a story to back mine up too.
Because I definitely got pulled over and he told me that I was going, um, you know, 6 miles over the speed limit. And, you know, he was stopped and you know and he you know had to catch up to me and I was like, well, you had to have been going well over that to catch up to me, so I don't and he didn't think that was very funny. I was a dumb teenager. I was probably about 17 or 18 at the time, and I was on my way to my girlfriend's at the time, and so I was already irritated because I'm like, I'm supposed to be over there right now and you're just making me late and I'm only going 6 miles over the speed limit, and so I thought he was being dumb. So,
Yeah.
um, Yeah, I got that, but I still got a ticket. Had to go to court, and then I had to go to driving school. So I learned to definitely not say that to a cop.
Wow, for going 6 over, that's pretty
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. It was a state trooper.
And this was in Tennessee, I
Yep.
presume?
Oh yeah, it was in
Wow.
Tennessee, a Tennessee state trooper.
Wow. All right, so
What about your story? I want to hear yours.
all right, mine's a little bit different because it's not a story about me. But one of the things you shouldn't say to a cop who pulls you over for speeding is, "You actually better be glad I stopped for you." Because my dad told me not to stop in this situation. So my wonderful sister, this is like, in her early days of driving, so probably 16, 17 or whatnot. And my dad did have a conversation with her, especially being a young girl. If a unmarked vehicle or someone that is not marked as a police car, or they're not identifying themselves as, the whole bit, the whole spiel, if
Mhm.
you don't stop for that.
Yeah.
So of course she took that and just ran with it, and it was a marked police car. I mean, it was the whole, and the guy actually knew my dad really well, which made it even funnier. And but yeah, my sister's like, "Yeah, you better be glad I stopped because my dad told me not to."
How'd that work out for her?
Uh, I'm pretty sure she only got a warning, so yeah, she lucked out
Of
there.
course,
But
of course, of course.
yeah, yeah. So all the stuff about equality, man. Women get out of tickets, I think, a lot easier than the guys do. So, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, well, easy come, easy go, I guess.
yeah, granted,
Yeah.
they got to put up with a lot of other crap. So I
Right.
guess I guess it won't hurt us to for us to give them that.
You can have that one, I guess.
Mm.
All right. So next month is February, and we are going to talk about time travel. Well, I guess movies dealing with, I guess, time manipulation. Yeah, we'll do a time manipulation. Um, so yeah, so first week we're going to talk about I guess will be my pick, and I'm going to pick the movie Idiocracy, which is on Prime Video. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Jeff, but it's gonna be it's kind of scary. This movie was made in like 2006, and it's about this guy who he's kind of like a your average guy, I guess, and he takes place in this study, and then he winds up waking up. I forget how far in the future exactly because it's been a little while since I watched the movie, but he wakes up in the future and he's like the smartest man alive because everybody's just gotten so dumb.
Nice.
So I think you might enjoy this one. So yeah, we're gonna watch Idiocracy next week. Please join us for that. Jeff, you got anything else before we get out of here tonight?
Nope. Thanks for you guys for taking a break with us. Nice little break for us to enjoy, and yeah, I'm anxious to jump back into some more movies.
Yeah. We do have a full month packed. So yeah, and yeah, sorry about taking off a week. We were actually going to record last week, and I was going to be out of town, and I, for some reason, thought that I would be able to record and watch a 2.5-hour movie in the short amount of time that I had, and that absolutely did not work. So that is absolutely my fault. But thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Jeff, for doing this with me every week, and for putting up with my shenanigans. And if you would like to support the podcast, you can do that by liking us and subscribing, giving us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to us. Please remember, you can tell a friend. That really does help these dudes out. You can also go to our Patreon, and links to that and our socials are down in the show notes below. Thanks again, and remember, when the lasso of truth is around you and it starts to burn, your pants might catch on fire. Peace out.